Welcome to the WALLKE X3 Pro review. I want to do this video quickly while I have some sunlight, and if you're interested in more information on this bike and the review, always check the description for links, coupon codes, any kind of updates on anything I discussed in the video. So let's start off. Overall, I'm pretty happy and excited about the bike. I've already taken it out on a few rides, and I think I got a very good bang for my buck, considering everything that's going on with the supply shortages and issues with costs and whatnot. So I wanted to give a review while it's in its stock form, because I plan to do on a bunch of upgrades. So link will be in the description once I complete the upgrade video. I have to install all the goodies that I plan on doing on the video. So to start off with, we'll start with the tires. Tires are really good. I like them. They're not noisy on asphalt or pavement, and they give me good traction on light trails. I haven't done any difficult trails or mountain bike trails, but I wasn't planning on to do that anyways, and that's not really what this bike is intended for. Moving on to the fenders. So there's an issue with the fenders, both the front and the back. When they're shipped, the fender arms, as you can see, they're kind of sticking out, here and there. But when they're shipped, they're angled out, way out to the sides, left and right. So I didn't know, they didn't include any installation instructions. And I attached this point up here, and then I attached this point up here. And then when I went to attach this point, it was the bar was all the way out here, and I had to bend it in just to get it to connect. And there was so much tension on this little bolt here that it actually, tightening this down, stripped it out. Like, I heard a pop, and when I inspected it, it stripped out all the aluminum threads that were inside of there. Now, I've done a temporary fix here by removing one of the washers and wrapping about 25 layers of Teflon tape, and then screwing it in. You can already see it's kind of coming out, but it's holding it in place for now. I might have to do a more permanent solution later on. So my solution, after going through all that with the rear fender, because the rear fender was the same way, with these arms sticking way out. So what I did is I pre-bent them, and where they're sticking out, I crossed them over like this, and so the arms were more not giving resistance to the mounts. The other thing too is that where you can see, I put a washer on the inside and outside to protect the paint and to have a better connection. WALLKE does not send you enough washers to double washer all the connections like these. I had to actually go dig in some of my supplies and double washer, like, double washer like this here. So that's the proper way, so you're not damaging the paint and you have a good secure connection. Now, with this case, I had to take out a washer just to get the bolt stuck in there more. The other thing too, and when you're installing the fenders, these will be sticking out more like an angle like this. I took some pliers and I bent them inward to match the angle coming from here down to here. That made it a lot easier when I was installing the rear fender. So fenders themselves are really nice. This is a pretty hard, pretty substantial plastic, but it's not heavy. I like the shape and design because it covers most of the tire, and any kind of overspray that you might get is going to be pretty much contained, you know, right underneath the fender. And it's not obnoxious looking, and it doesn't make it look like, it's not unappealing. You know, the color is nice. I think it's a good design. They just need to improve on these bars and pre-bend them in for the customer so it's not so difficult to install. Because if you don't know to do that, you're going to have a lot of trouble trying to install these fenders. All right, moving on. So the forks, I absolutely love the forks. I love the fact that they're air shocks, that I don't have to mess around with any other kind of spring shocks or hydraulic shocks. And they're also adjustable, so when you press down, your travel on the shock itself is going to be less when it's in this mode. That's like a lockout. And you have 5 positions. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So you have 5 different increments of how much shock you want traveled. And really love the look. I love the feel. Everything about it is like, that's a big thumbs up. So haven't really rode the bike at night, but the light works and seems to be fine. And then let's move on to, I'll start with the shifters because that's my biggest complaint on the whole handlebar setup, are these little nuts. And if you look at it, you can see that they stick out. And when your hand's going to impact, your knuckles are going to hit that. Same thing on the right side, your hand's going to impact that. Now what you can do, because the way the hand's positioned, your 2 fingers should be up here where it's got the most of the force, and by resting your hand normally, it's on the inside. So you can actually move this in further, which I'm going to do. I'm going to rearrange this, and that'll be in my upgrade video. I'm going to move this inside, and I'm going to move this shifter inside. I might try to reverse these two, because this is actually the front brake and this is the rear brake. And if you've ever ridden a motorcycle, this is normally the front brake and this is the clutch, and that's what I'm kind of used to. So, and then the rear brake is, you know, down on the right side. But I might try to switch these two. I don't know if I can just flip these upside down or not. I should be able to, but that's something I'm going to experiment with, because I might be able to just be able to swap them. So I'll report on that in my upgrade video on how that went. So the throttle is fine. It's got some good tension on the spring back. These controls are really nice and snappy. You can get a tactile feedback of when you're actually pressing it, whether you're wearing gloves or not. So I like that. It comes with a little bell. Let me move the thing. It's kind of pressed up against stuff here. There we go. So that works fine. The display, and I'll turn that on for you, is really nice. I really like how that, and I'm trying not to get the sun reflection. Really like the display. I like the settings in it. It reads well at night. Let me turn off the headlight. And it is, I think there's something in here that detects whether or not there's daylight or night, because when I've had it inside and I turned it on, it automatically turns on the headlight. And then now when I just turned it on, we'll test it out again, I'll turn it back on. It won't turn on the headlight automatically. So if it's at night, automatic headlights. If it's during the day, it'll not use the headlight. And then you can just turn the headlights on and off by just hitting that button. Here are the shifters, and it's an 8-speed shifter with the downshift and the upshift. They're in a really good position. I really like this shifter, and the shifting is pretty solid on the Shimano whole gear setup. All right, so the phone holder I really like. I like this rubberized kind of texture pad that they have here. I really like the design of the arms, and you can see it's kind of got like a curvature here where it bends in, and it's also got rubber, like a rubberized kind of pad. So when you clamp this down, it just clamps by locking, and it'll just by tension alone, it'll hold the phone in place. And you can hit this button on the side here, and that'll pop open the arms. And the other cool thing is it's got little flip-up arms to help keep your phone from sliding down, which is really cool too. And the last really cool feature, now one quick note, this is just a phone holder. It is not a wireless Qi charging capability. So because of that, it's got a little USB port with a rubber weatherproof cover, and so you can plug in your phone and charge it. And another nice thing on the coming off of the display here, I just have it kind of secured there. You have an additional USB port for any other kind of device that you might want to use. The handlebar grips are made out of kind of like a faux leather, but I like that they have this ergonomic kind of palm rest. Really like these. These are nice. They have like a little bit of play to them, and they feel kind of plushy. So definite thumbs up on that. And going back to the brakes themselves and how they actually operate, these are hydraulic brakes, and the discs are 180 millimeter disc brakes on both the back end with hydraulic calipers. And they also have cutoff sensors here. So if you're operating the passive pedaling assist or the throttle and you brake, it'll cut off power to the motor. So other than this nut, these brakes are actually really good. They stop the bike pretty solidly. Really impressed with that. One thing I forgot to mention about the forks is this is your air tube, and this just unscrews, and then inside you have a standard Schrader valve, and you can fill it up with a shock pump or like a compressor or something and adjust it to your weight. So if you want a squishier suspension or a stiffer one, you can adjust that. So, and it's really easy, kind of a no muss no fuss. There's one slight issue, and that's with the clearance of this valve, and I'm gonna try to do this one-handed here. The clearance is really tight, and if you know, I have the wheel turned almost, yeah, pretty much more than 90 degrees right now. So that's just something to be aware of. That will hit the cables if you're turning the bike around just to maneuver it around. So be mindful of that so you're not hitting the cables and damaging them or the top of the valve. All right. So I think that pretty much covers. I'll go over the stem really quick. The stem seems pretty solid. The spacers are nice. The actual bar itself, my only complaint about the bar is maybe this taper. I wish this was kind of like even all the way down, and then maybe a very more like steeper taper right around towards the middle. Because trying to move any kind of devices here, it's thicker here, thinner there. So like the phone holder, as you can see here, I can't move this down further because it's just too wide, and I'm worried about breaking these little two straps that hold it on. My camera will focus. Yeah, so that's the only minor complaint I have about it. Other than that, the handlebars, the width of them seems pretty good. The positioning is good. And moving on to the battery compartment and controller compartment, I'll go over this side first. So this is a charging port for the battery, and it gives you direct access to the battery port. This is a port designed that will allow you to keep it waterproof because the way it fits in there. You can charge the battery by taking it out and then plugging it in the same port if you want, but if you don't want to take out the battery, you have that option. The hinge on the folding mechanism is pretty substantial. Like, I don't see this being compromised unless you really are hammering the crap out of this bike. And then let's go over to the actual locking mechanism. This is pretty solid. I'm not going to do a folding demonstration right now, just because I want to go over everything. It's pretty solid. None of this is coming apart. You can tighten this down if this is getting too loose, but that's the locking mechanism, and it just flips out and it locks very, very solidly. And then the hinge here is very, very beefy. I also like the fact that this 2021 design has like a no weld seam. Like, there should be like weld beads here. It's very smooth. Same thing here. But they could have extended that down to here, and if you look at the welding job, wow, that looks just god awful. It's just horrible. The appeal wise, it's I don't know if this was supposed to be done, but that just looks awful. You know, if this is part of the whole same frame, it should look just as nice up here. But yeah, that's they could have done better with that, for just the appeal sake of having a nice product, because that's a big clash with the nice, like how nice this looks up here. Thankfully it's down there where you don't see it as much, but what are you gonna do? So they could grind it down. Anyways, let's move on to the shock and the shock system. So right away I've had issues with this creaking, because from the factory these are all screwed in really tight, and they have Loctite on the thread, and this wouldn't compress. It was like really rigid, it wouldn't compress. So I almost had no rear suspension working right out of the box. So I loosen these up, but the problem is loosening these, they want to, you know, unscrew and fall apart, and then the only way I can keep them from not like creaking and making noise is by cranking it only at 2 nanometers on my torque wrench. And I added a washer here just because it was it just was like, it's hard to explain. I have to rebuild this entire system because even the nylon washers you see here, these were creaking as well. So I have to grease these, rebuild this whole system, which I'm going to do anyways because I'm going to replace the shock, because even after I get this loosened up, the shock travel on this is like really small. It's a spring inside of here. This is like a cheap $20, maybe $30, and you can find these on Amazon. They're super cheap. WALLKE could have done better with this by doing like a cheaper air shock, which you can get them as low as like 50 bucks. But you know, they're trying to save costs, and you know, it would be a way of improving the bike overall. I think a spring shock is not a good way to go for an out-of-the-box product. It's a minor improvement that could be a huge impact on the customer experience. So I'm actually going to replace this with a air shock with a dual valve system, and that'll be in my upgrade video. All right, so the pedals these are pretty good pedals, but they're a little on the small side. These are, I think I measured it at 3.5 by 3.5. And although they work fine, you know, they got a couple of cleats on here, and my foot hasn't really slipped off. They're a little small for my taste. Nice thing is, if you push these in, you can flip them up, and then you can, I don't know if I can do this one-handed, push it in and flip it back down. So that's nice. It's a nice little included feature. And we'll move on to the seat and the seat post. This design is actually pretty nice. They come with a plastic sleeve that you can see in there. Quick release lever. Warning, I did something stupid, just not thinking. A lot of the quick release levers I'm used to, when you open it and you twist it, or you know, you turn it counterclockwise or clockwise to tighten and loosen it. Well, if you can see, that's a concave there, and in the process of twisting it, I ended up chewing up the paint and the metal by doing that. Trying to get it in focus, sorry about that. So if you're going to tighten it, and I do recommend tightening this so it takes some good force to clamp this down, otherwise this will slide up and down on its own eventually. Use this nut and get it nice and tight. So the post is nice. It has markers on the back so you can set your height, and if you remove it you can get it set. The trying to get a better angle here. So it's got a nice, you can angle the seat up and down like this, and forward and back. And that's only with one bolt. A lot of the systems have 2 bolts, and this is pretty solid. It's not going anywhere if you get it nice and cranked down. All right, so the seat itself, I'm sorry WALLKE, but this seat is absolutely horrible. I don't know if it's me in particular, but I have a kind of a bony butt, and although it's got like a memory foam, that's about as far as my thumb can press into it, which is not very far, and it gets thinner in certain spots. like on the outer edges it's thick, but your sit bones, or at least mine, are about like right here, and there's not a lot of padding there. I have a new seat that I'm going to install and replace this, so I think WALLKE could do better on that. You know, for the cost that went into the seat versus getting a seat that's much better, wouldn't be that much of a difference to where they would lose a lot of profit. So this is a thumbs down on the seat. So if you buy this bike, plan on getting a new seat that's going to be way more comfortable. All right, we'll go on to the luggage rack. So this is another issue I had. So right out of the box, the luggage rack was splayed outwards. And just like my hand, it wasn't like a parallel, like too wide. It was a angle wide, like this. And it was splayed outward, and it has 4 mounts here. One there, and then another pair on the other side. So if I lined up the hole, like I lined up the holes on the other side, put the bolts in loosely, and I lined up this hole, and then this hole was going out like this. Like, here, I'll get a better angle. It was angled outward. And if I tried to line up this hole, it was angled inward, and I couldn't line up these holes. So what I did was I loosely put in this one, and then even though this one was pointed outwards, I took some zip ties and wrapped them around and just started yanking and compressing the zip ties to where this finally lined up. And I tried pre-bending these to, like, you know, putting some weight on it, but all that did was, because the alignment was like this, if you bend it inwards, it's still misaligned. It's difficult to explain, and I would never try to redo this, but that was really difficult. They have a installation video on their YouTube site, but they need to do a better job with getting right out of the box. It should line, the holes should just line up. You shouldn't have to really fuss and fight with it to get it installed, something as simple as a luggage rack. The other thing too is this thing is pretty substantial. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing, but I feel like this is overkill. The look of it is pretty nice, but it's big, it's heavy, and the tubes are incompatible with a lot of existing luggage rack systems that you would buy as accessories. I don't even know if a clip-in system is going to work on this or not. I haven't tried one yet. But, you know, they included it as part of the package of the bike, so that's nice. 2020 people who order them did not get a luggage rack or fenders. So, I don't know. I went with it because I didn't want to buy a new one. And we'll see how it goes. If I can maybe lose some weight, or I'm looking to lose some weight, this is going to be the first thing that goes for sure. Because this, even though it's made out of aluminum tubing, it still adds a couple pounds to the bike. So you could get definitely a lighter luggage rack. I like the fact that it's got specially mounted holes that are part of the frame, and then I don't have to attach it to other points on the bike. So that's why I've kept it. Just got a nice reflector on the back. This is pretty solid. There's the mounting for it. And then what do we got here? So the crank, pretty nice. I like the whole gear system. It's a Shimano Hyperglide cassette. And there's the cassette number, HG200. and Shimano Altus derailleur. Be prepared that although from the out of the box it was pretty good, it still needed adjustments to make it nice and smooth to where it wasn't making a lot of extra noise. And so I learned how to adjust these on my own, and there's plenty of videos on YouTube where you can find how to do that. The motor, the 750 watt motor, seems pretty good. I'm having issues with my controller, and I don't know if the top speed is correct or not, but the top speed I'm getting is like 27 miles an hour, where the controller goes up to 31. So that's something I have to test more and figure out. But power wise, I can't complain, but this is my first e-bike, so I don't really have much to compare it to. But I do like the power of, you know, just having it on tap, and the battery usage is pretty good. They claim about 30 miles average usage, and I'm getting just about that. The WPass technology, so this has been kind of a controversy because there's been a couple of different things. WPass was supposed to have regenerative braking, and this bike, I'll tell you right now after talking with WALLKE, does not come with regenerative braking. They say WPass is just a more advanced management system, so you're not using up your battery as much. And that's fine and all, but when I bought the bike, they advertised regenerative braking, especially in a lot of the YouTube videos that they were associating with. So I don't know. I'm in the midst of talking with WALLKE to find out if they are going to send new motors out that are capable of regenerative braking or not. There's several other YouTubers, not YouTubers, but purchasers that are on, I think it's eBike review. I'll have the link in the description, and you can check out the discussion going back and forth about the regenerative ability. Apparently the first generation of the regenerative braking was burning out controllers and batteries. So WALLKE thought it was prudent to swap out the motor to one that was not going to be regenerating and causing damage to the controller and the battery. And if you don't know this, the battery is about, I would say, 50 to 60% of the value of the bike. These batteries are really, really, really expensive. So that's not something that you want to be damaging, you know, while you're in use of the bike, or shortening its life to where you have to replace it, because to drop $600, you know, like for this bike, it's going to be probably about $600 to replace the battery. So maybe not quite 50%. For this bike, it's about maybe like 40%, something like that. Also, the kickstand, really like it. It has a nice wide base, which is being kind of hidden by the grass. Its stance is pretty good. The bike doesn't lean over too much. The tension on it flipping up and down is pretty springy, so I can demonstrate nice snap both back and forth. So really like that. So thumbs up on the kickstand. But anyways, even with all the issues I've had and some of the complaints I've had, I've been going back and forth with WALLKE, and they've been very good at trying to address my issues, trying to troubleshoot, trying to take care of some other things. And then I will also talk shortly about that. So right out of the box, I had an error code for the throttle, and it was intermittent. They had me take the controller out and reconnect the cables, And so I kind of got the throttle working for a little bit, but then it wasn't working. So they sent me a new throttle and a new cable harness. So I got the new throttle on there. That's working okay. But then I had issues with the controller either not saving settings, or the biggest issue I had and the biggest complaint was the controller has a cruise control to where if you hold down the throttle for, I think it's more than 5 seconds, maybe 6 seconds, it'll just keep the bike going. And I had the cruise control turned off in the settings, and the cruise control was still activating. And there was one point where I almost got into an accident because I had the throttle on, I was holding it down for more than 5 seconds, and I went to let off to slow down, and the bike kept on going, and I had to brake really hard to get the bike to slow down and stop. So that was a dangerous situation whenever your bike does something unpredictable. But to WALLKE, I told them about my issue. They're sending me a new controller after doing some troubleshooting. So as soon as I get the controller, I'll get that replaced, do some more testing, whatever. So overall, do I recommend this bike? So I got this bike for $18.50 with the coupon code that I found. You can, I should have an ongoing coupon code for this YouTube. You can get it in the description. It's $150 off the current $2,000 price as the time of this video posting. And for that much money, with this supply chain being really broken today, for what I wanted to do, what I needed, I think I'm going to recommend it. And I'm not just saying that because I do have a disclaimer. I am an affiliate, I am an ambassador, but I'm an honest one. If there's a problem with this bike, I'll be honest about it, do real testing, and if there's something I don't like about the bike, I will say as much, as you can see in this review video. I will work to try to correct any kind of issues or shortcomings, and work with WALLKE to see if they can improve, either by sending me replacement parts or by improving on their future designs. So that's it for the video. I have comments turned off, and I apologize for that, but to be honest, I'm doing this in my part-time. I'm very busy with work. I don't have a lot of time to make videos and post them. I'm not a big YouTuber, nor I'm trying to be one. So if you want to have a discussion about anything, get on the forum, post there, and there'll be a few of us guys talking about, and then you can post pictures and keep the discussion going. And everything is public. It is not owned by WALLKE or controlled by WALLKE. So anything that happens, good or bad, will you'll be able to see there. And that's it. So thanks a lot for watching, and take care.